Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second live stream of Sinking into the Silence. I wanted to do this to see, I've been doing this morning meditation. Well, it's actually a morning blog post that I offer on my website. And part of the blog post is to spark inspiration, to say, okay, what thing can I do next for my business? And I woke up yesterday, I think it was, from one of those meditations, and I realized that I can stream live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. I miss being able to include this live feed with my private Facebook group. From now on, there will be a live. So I'm going to do what I was doing on Facebook, which is a live meditation on Sunday, and it will include a meditation hack. I've been doing brain hacks. I'm going to tell you about those, but a meditation hack to give you tips and tricks to make meditation easier. Meditation can be super easy if we take the right approach. And a lot of us struggle because we're trying to meditate from the wrong state of mind, and that's not possible. So if you're trying to meditate to relieve stress or to still your mind and it's not working, the reason why it's not working is because you can't. If you're in a stress state, you can't bring forth the brain function that you need to bring forth to do that. If you have any questions about meditation, if you've struggled, if you have difficult times, add those in comments, and you can add them in comments on the Facebook page too, but add those in comments and I'll answer them the next time we get together, the next time we do a meditation. And so that's going to be our layout, and I'm going to go ahead and begin. Also, if you miss one, they'll be available. The videos will be available. They're also available on my website. So if you've been missing the brain hacks and you want to check them out, or previous meditations I've done on YouTube, there's a videos and articles page on my website that has a ton of content. So you can go and watch whatever you want. It's there for free. So today I have a very specific goal, and it has to do with silence. And what inspired my meditation today is the stillness of the world right now, right? There are places where there's a lot of chaos, where people are struggling and all of that, and with this social distancing, or in hospitals or grocery stores trying to manage the situation. Kind of, you have these frontline people on the front lines, and then you have the rest of us who are trying to navigate a new situation, but the streets are eerily quiet. I mean, I still see cars on the road, but very few. There are roads that used to be so busy I wouldn't take them, and now they're nearly empty. The roads are lined with parked cars because everyone's home, right? People aren't out doing random things. And so this is a very difficult situation for people that have a problem with silence. So I used to be, when I had addiction and PTSD, I couldn't be in silence. I couldn't be in silent space. I always had music on. I always had background noise and something, because I couldn't stand the sound of my own head, my own thoughts, or it just seemed like everything reflected back so loud to me that I couldn't tolerate it. I was really miserable. And so in that time, I was thinking about that this morning. I was thinking about, what about those people that are out there like I was? See, I'm a person now, I seldom have music on in my house. I live by myself and I work from home. And so my house is silent the majority of the time. The most noise I have is animals. My granddaughter comes over and works with me sometimes. But other than that, there's no noise here. I'm in silence the majority of the time. And I love that now. I love the silence I get to experience, but I remember when I didn't. And so I thought, I want to give some people a tool. A good tool for when you have repetitive thoughts or habits or stressors that you want a quick response to. No matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, I can respond to this thought in my head I don't like, or this feeling I have that I'm not comfortable in. And I don't generally do process-driven stuff. So those of you that know me know that my shtick is I'm going to go right to brain function. I'm not going to try and help you change. We're not going to dig in and analyze thoughts or feelings or even worry about them, except to observe them, to know what brain function we're in. I'm about changing the brain function. So my goal is to help you change your brain function so you have better thoughts and feelings, because brain chemistry is driving everything. And so I can't control the side effect of the chemistry. And people they try and help you control your thoughts. Just have positive thoughts, do affirmations, all these things. And they're the arduous journeys that bear little results for us. And so for me, I generally go straight to the brain function, but this is a little process driven. But I just want to put it out there as a coping mechanism for people, and to also set it up as what I would call a phase 2 practice. So our centering practice for our meditative state. So in addition to being something that can help us kind of navigate what we're going through, it's really the meditation setup. So for those of you that are in my program, I'm going to recommend this as a phase 2 practice. And the practice I'm recommending is this closing doors practice I used to teach. And so it's really important before any meditation. So as a meditation hack, before any meditation, you need to center yourself. So that point I said about you can't be stressed and then meditate. The reason why is that when we're stressed, it means our amygdala is triggered. And when our amygdala is triggered, it shuts off the prefrontal cortex. And what we're doing when we're meditating is we're activating the prefrontal cortex. So we need an active prefrontal cortex to meditate. So trying to activate the prefrontal cortex while the amygdala is trying to shut it down is a battle we won't win. We might gradually improve it over time as we're training the brain to do something new, but it'll take decades. This is why so many people struggle with meditation, is the majority of the problem is they don't set up the meditation right to begin with. So today's brain hack is about setting up this meditation with this closing doors practice. So again, we're going to use this to center first. And then the practice of closing doors is this. So if you have a thought, a feeling, an emotion, habit that you don't like, right? And so this is something that creates suffering in your life that you wish you didn't have. So I came out of a really bad environment in the beginning of my life, and I used to have thoughts I hated, and I hated myself for having those thoughts. I thought I was a horrible person, and yet they'd been there my whole life. I didn't even know where they came from until I started to study the brain and understood how all the neurons in our brain were adopted, and that the basis for all our thinking initially are these neurons that were our ancestors. And once I understood that, it made sense, because my ancestral line has a lot of severe dysfunction in it. So these horrible thoughts I would have, like I'd always assume the worst. If I saw two people on the street, I'd assume something bad. I drive by cars and assume people are kidnapped or things like that. My brain just immediately would go there. And when I understood that that was my history and not part of me, it gave me some peace, but I still hated the thoughts. I didn't like them being in my head. So I created this exercise for myself that became a brilliant way to eliminate that that thinking about those things too much, going there too much. And so in doing that, I created this thing where, okay, so what you're going to do is this. I'm just going to go into the practice. I'm not going to give you a bunch of history on it. So what we're doing is this. You have a thought you don't like, or a feeling, or an emotion. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that and you're going to imagine it as a tangible thing. So you're going to think of, say that you have a negative thought, like say it's a self-loathing thought. So I'm going to use a specific example. Sorry, while I'm doing this, I am setting up the chats so that I can see both of them. I have both the YouTube and the Facebook chats in front of me. So if anybody has any questions during this or things they want to share, go ahead and add them in the chats and I'll address them as I can. But you're going to take this. So they say this thought is about self-loathing. So thinking, oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do things. And you're like, I hate that I have that thought because I know I should love myself. So what you're going to do is that thought comes into the head. I'm not good enough. And you're going to imagine it as something tangible. It could be the words, I'm not good enough. It could be a shape or a color. It could be a sound in your ear. It's just something that you can measure with sensory information, right? So it's a taste, a smell, any of the five senses. But you're going to envision that. So it's sitting out here as this tangible thing. And then what you're going to do is imagine that there is an open door frame between you and it. Now, you don't have to visually see this. Not everybody visualizes. So don't worry about having to visually see it. Just imagine the essence of a door. It might be something you feel or just consider, right? So you're going to see an open door frame between you and it. And then you're going to just reach out, and you can physically do it, or you can just do it in your mind, and you're going to close the door with that thing on the other side. And then all around the frame of that door, the door is going to seal, and then it's going to dissipate and disappear. And there's going to be a moment of stillness. So there's this great idea in Celtic mythology where they talk about the betwixt and the between, and that is the space between breaths. It's the space that is right at the end of one thing before the next thing begins. And we experience things like a circle. So it's like that moment when the tide comes in just before it goes out. There's this pause in all things. The Native Americans here recognized it with the morning star, that at the end of the day, another day wasn't promised, but that morning star would be the promise of the next day. And the morning star is that pause, that pregnant breath we talk about. And so as we close the doors, there's that pause. This is the stillness that I am talking about becoming comfortable in. And this is the stillness of meditation. But we need to understand, we don't need to practice this stillness to meditate. So you're not trying to still your mind to meditate. Stillness is a result of meditative practice. So when you activate that prefrontal cortex, the mind becomes still. The brain is only ever doing one of two things. The brain is either taking in new information or it is processing information. So that thinking monkey mind, that analytical mind, that left brain we talk about is the processing side. But then there's this side that's in observation, that's in infinite possibility, that's in everything that could happen. And this is the space that gives us stillness, but is the result of a brain function, is the result of the activation of that prefrontal cortex. And then that developing of the striatum, the relationship between the left and right hemisphere of the brain comes from that. But first, we need to activate the prefrontal cortex, which shuts off the amygdala. So the minute we close that door and the door seals, that is when we have that stillness. So just even if it's only a moment before another feeling or thought or something shows up, just become aware of how that moment feels. And then as the next thought or feeling or habitual, whatever it is, comes up, again, you're going to imagine it as something tangible, as something real. You're going to imagine it on the other side of that door, and you're going to really feel its separation from you. This is really where we're pulling something out of ourselves. If you've ever done meditation where you observe your thoughts passing, you can use it this way. You're just closing a door between you and the thought. And it's continuing to do this. So you can do this throughout the day. Like I mentioned, you can do it anytime, but it is a really great setup for a meditation practice. So it's a great centering practice for us to use before we meditate. So I teach meditation as an active listening process. And so I want to get to the relationship building between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. A lot of meditation is just about centering, just about entering the stillness. That's what we use this practice for. This is where we're activating that prefrontal cortex. Tonight we're going to go further. We're going to go into this relationship. But first we're going to quiet the mind. We're going to find that centered state and activate that prefrontal cortex. And we're going to use this practice to do it. But this is also something you can use during the day. So I want to just read a little bit about the practice, just how you're going to use it. And then I'm going to use it to take us into tonight's meditation. So I would recommend practicing the closing door exercise for a few minutes a day. This, again, is a phase 2 practice. It's good for to use if you're overstressed or having ruminating thoughts or things you don't want to think. It's a good thing to do throughout the day. Pay attention to your habitual behavior, working on any thoughts that reoccur. So if you can pick one particular thought that you use it on, that's a really great use of the practice. And then ask the question about that thought after you've closed the door, after you've had the stillness, that moment to feel that pause. Is this behavior representative of who I am, who I was, or is it what I want as part of my more authentic self? So there's our history, who we were, who I was historically. There's who I am today, and there's who I'm leaning into being, who I'm expanding myself into. So what is this part thought of? What is this thought or pattern a part of? Generally, it's our history. Oftentimes, we're steeped in our history trying to create a future. And so if it's history and you can pause for a moment and go, oh, that's who I was. That's not who I am. That's enough to eliminate the pattern, and oftentimes on its own. So if this is not a thought or behavior you want to carry forward into the new expression of who you are this year, imagine it standing on that other side of the open door. See the door closing, see the seam sealing, and the door dissolving into the space around it. If the thought or action reoccurs, do the exercise again. Do it as many times as it takes to release the pattern. You begin to find your life when you begin to choose where you are. Now, again, I don't teach choice. I teach function that drives choice. So, but this is a great practice for getting into that contemplative state. It's also a great thing to be able to use throughout the day if you're triggered. At the Brain Hack this week, someone asked me or mentioned, oh no, actually it was during the workshop. It was during one of the 2 workshops I just did. They were asking me, what are just simple practices I can use on the fly that I can always have with me, that no matter where I am? This is a good one. So count that as a centering practice to activate that prefrontal cortex. And so I'm going to use that and to take us into tonight's meditation. And so if anybody has any questions or anything, you can go ahead and write those in comments, anything you want to say, anything you want to share. I am going to go into the meditation, so I won't be answering them tonight. But if you put them there, I will definitely address them during next week's hack. I would also love your feedback on what you like, what works for you, and building a healthy meditation practice where I can be there regularly. But we're going to dig into the meditation now. And any questions you have, anything you put in that live chat, I will address with the next meditation hack. So we're going to go ahead and dig into the meditation. So I'm going to put our meditation screen up, and I invite everyone to just take a nice deep breath. Kind of center yourself in the moment. I always like beginning a meditation with a deep breath. Bringing myself fully present to the moment. And now we're going to use this meditation this practice I've talked about to prepare ourselves for that centering state. So what I want you to do is just quiet your mind. Be in the stillness. Fully experience it right now if you can. If you have any discomfort in your body, if you're feeling something you don't want to feel, or having a thought you don't want to have, just practice this. Just imagine it as something tangible you can see. Imagine it on the other side of a doorway. Be aware of it. And now just allow that door to close and seal and dissipate, so that that thing on the other side no longer exists. And connect with this pause, this moment of silence. For just one moment, connect with it. Now, if anything else comes up, if the thought tries to return, or if there's another one, another feeling, and we're not going to try and master all of them right in this moment, but if anything comes up, again, imagine it as something tangible, something measurable. See it on the other side of a door. Allow that door to close, to seal, and to dissipate. And now, most important, connect with the silence of being without that thought or feeling for a moment. We'll go ahead and just do that one more time. This is just our centering time to get ourselves into that deeper state, to be prepared to meditate. So again, if anything's coming up, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It just may be, you know what, I'm going into silence tonight, so I just don't want any thoughts. They're not bad thoughts. I just want to empty my mind of thought. So you might imagine yourself just dumping everything out of your brain, pushing it to the other side of that door, and closing it, allowing that door to seal and dissipate. If the thought's important, it'll return when it's most valuable. If it's not, you can allow it to just cease to exist. Now connect again with what it feels like to be on the side of the door, where the stillness is, where the silence is. And breathe into that silence. Allow yourself to really feel it around you. The whole world is in more stillness now than it has been for a very long time. Everything is still around us. Don't think about what's happening. Just be in that stillness, the quiet that is occurring. Silence the mind. Silence the body by allowing it to become still. Allowing the mind to become quiet. allowing the soul to enter a state of listening. Are there any sounds you hear? Just being in observation, not worrying about them or what they mean, not to do anything with it. Just allow yourself to be in the silence. So I'm going to fall silent for just a few seconds and allowing you to experience letting everything become still. Now, my meditation practices often include writing prompts, and I'll give you one of those at the end of the practice, but I want to put you into a question and let you just be in the stillness with the question. And I want you to use this closing door exercise as part of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question, and whatever answer comes, allow yourself again to let it be something tangible. Put it on the other side of the door, close the door, and sit in the silence that you experience after doing that. So again, you don't need to write in this part. This part is just for the practice of the closing doors. So the question is, what am I here to silence in my life? What in my life has too much noise? What needs more stillness? What am I here to silence in my life? I'll give you a few moments of silence to go through your practice. Now we're going to do that again. What am I here to silence in my life? What in your life could use more stillness? And one last time. What am I here to silence in my life? And if you have many things, you can just send them all through that door. Now sit in that space where those things that you would silence, you're free of those. Just in a quiet space. Become familiar with that space. Connect with it. Now, at the end of every meditation practice, I offer a question for contemplation. So this takes you into the writing portion. I say it all the time. Meditation without articulation yields no results. So we want to be building that striatum, that relationship between the left and right hemisphere of the brain. And so we want to be articulating our experience. So this next question I'm going to ask you is a writing prompt, and then I'll end the meditation. For those of you that are interested on YouTube, people have said sometimes they have a hard time finding the videos on YouTube. If you subscribe to my channel, you won't be notified, you won't be pinged, but it'll let you know where my videos are. They'll appear at the top of your list. If you hit the bell notification icon, every time I upload something, it will send a notification to your phone. That you can do that now and make it easier to find the meditations in the future if you ever miss one. They'll be on the videos page in Facebook as well as on my website as well if you prefer to access them there. So I'm going to be prepared to sign off, and I'm just going to leave you with this question now. Now you're in that state where you've activated the prefrontal cortex, and you're ready now to go into meditation. And the meditation question is, what am I here to speak into my life? Now that I have this silent, open, empty canvas, what am I here to speak into?